Hello, I'm Seemakalia, and welcome to Q&A, the program where you meet the leaders from Long Island to Albany to Washington. Today on Q&A... But I have to ask you why you didn't run for president. We learned a very dark side about your personal life, which is that but you need revenue to have a tax break, so it's a bit like saying we'll give you a discount on something you can't afford to buy.
Exactly.
Jackie, you're young, you live in Long Island, you're smart, you're educated. Why won't you run for office?
Why?
Now, your policy has largely been lauded, but your tactics have been questioned, and you've had. I do want to ask you who you think the least intelligent president that we've ever had is. Hello, I'm Seemakalia, and welcome to Q&A, the show that reports to you before the headlines and beyond the soundbite. Tonight, we talk to former New York City Mayor Ed Koch. Ed, thank you for being here. First question we ask everybody, who are you and what is your job? And I know in this case it might take a very long time because I think you have about 6 jobs currently.
Well, my major job is as a partner in this firm of Brian Cave. We're in my office now. I do commentaries. I have a recent is a child's book that will be published in the first week of September.
What's the child's book about?
Well, the title says it all. It's Eddie, Harold's little brother. I'm Eddie. And it describes... And he said, you talk good. And that's how I got on the road to becoming mayor.
Now, you're keeping some interesting company being the author of a children's book, aren't you? I mean, that's a bit of a trendy thing to do. Billy Crystal has one. Madonna, I think, has 2 of them. What prompted you to write this?
Well, my sister has 7 grandchildren books. She's written others in her own field.
Now, 8 does seem like a very high number to me to write about oneself. Did you ever run out of material?
Well, Churchill had more than 8. I chronicled... 9 if we include
Little Eddie, right, in the new book?
But I chronicled my political career, city council, Congress, mayor. After all, I was mayor for 12 years.
Well, let's go right into the impressive career you've had. I mean, I want to talk a little bit about your career as mayor. Most of who's watching will certainly remember it or know about it. But what would you say was the highlight of your time as mayor?
Well, the defining issue was the transit strike. Actually, most people think that the beginning of bringing your shoes to work and walking to work in sneakers, running shoes, started at that time. And that was a defining issue.
Now, that kind of chutzpah sort of became your hallmark. That was what you became known for. So did you feel pressure after people responded to that kind of tactic to just sort of keep it up, to be different, to be fresh?
I was always trying to be myself. I attracted supporters simply because they said, this guy's for real.
Now, one supporter you attracted early on was Rupert Murdoch. What was that about?
Well, that's when I ran for mayor. He really wanted to be for Mario Cuomo. Mario still said, trust me. And that was not an adequate answer.
Now, you and Mario Cuomo do meet up again in political life.
Yes, he beat me for governor in 1982.
And you say now that that was sort of a misguided pursuit on your part, that was something you should have done.
I'm glad he beat me, because I didn't really want to be governor. There weren't any good Chinese restaurants in Albany at the time.
I don't think there are any now either.
And we ended up with me as governor and Ed as mayor. The best of all possible worlds, and he was right.
Well, that was the genius behind his campaign strategy in defeating you. Ed Koch is such a great mayor, keep him there.
That's exactly what he said at the time.
And the voters kept you there for 12 years.
They did, and then they threw me out, and they got David Dinkins, and people say, well, if you're such a good mayor, why'd they throw you out in Parkway? It's all changed for the better now, but in those days it was terrible.
Well, he certainly had a considerable number of problems during his administration. Did you ever feel personally any sense of Schadenfreude, you got what you deserved? And didn't you once say the people have spoken, now let's punish them or let's give them what they deserve?
No, what happened was after they threw me out, they didn't want Rudy Giuliani because he was perceived then as a mean-spirited person.
How did you perceive him?
As a mean-spirited person. He was the U.S. attorney. Some would say, but Mayor, we've been punished.
How do you feel about Rudy Giuliani today, post 9/11?
Well, pre 9/11, he was a mean-spirited guy and wouldn't meet with people. 9/11, he performed in a way that no one could have done it better. I think there are others who could have done it as well. That's what you're trained to do if you're a mayor or
Could you have done it as well when you were mayor?
I'm not going to, say I could have done it as well. There are others who could have done it as well. And so I expect him to revert to what he was before. But he hasn't.
So you're taking the position that Giuliani is not a saint. I could put you on the record for that one.
Maybe he is.
Unsaint-like behavior he's been accused of is effectively profiting from 9/11. His speaking fee went way up. He got himself...
Nothing wrong with his being more valuable. He's not profiting. There's nothing wrong with that. I lecture around the country.
What about when he wanted to extend term limits at a time when the country was very emotional, the city was very emotional? Do you think that was misguided?
I thought it was foolish. This consented to that request.
Let's talk about another election. Now, you are famously on record as supporting George Bush in the upcoming election as a lifelong Democrat.
Should I give you the reason?
Yes, please.
I happen to be a very good Democrat. The president says he flip-flops, Kerry does. He's absolutely correct. So,
but aren't you supposed to flip-flop? Aren't thinking men supposed to consider...
You can be educated over a period of time, but you don't flip-flop in weeks. That's number one.
But if you get good new information, shouldn't you reassess it?
He flip-flops on too many issues. But let me give you an illustration. If you agree with me on 12 out of 12, see a psychiatrist.
I want to ask you about the war again,
Sure.
And there's some feeling that Bush misled the country, misled Congress. And
it's an outrage to say that when every single head of the CIA to rely on his advice.
Now, you've also spoken out against the U.S. participation in the international court, which you think would be detrimental to, I guess, the country's sovereignty in enacting
No,
our
what I
policy.
said was that, as the president said and others, and Belgium quickly changed the law.
So we're keeping some pretty nefarious company in terms of voting against the court. I mean, basically all of the axis of evil countries we don't traditionally feel respect human rights. North Korea, for one, and Syria, Libya, these are the countries that share the U.S. position against the
Russia.
court. But
Russia's a democracy.
This was also before Abu Ghraib, and
listen. I believe that the United States and the Philippines, when told by the terrorists, get your people out of Iraq or we're going to commit acts of terrorism against you.
I only have a few minutes left, and I have to ask you one more question.
Bent the knee.
Last week we had a very, I guess, dramatic announcement. Governor James McGreevey of New Jersey has announced that he is a gay American. Now, throughout your career, there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of questions. You've consistently maintained that it's no one's business who anyone sleeps with.
That's correct.
And do you feel, though, had there not been this pressure to keep this out of the limelight, that this kind of problem wouldn't have happened if you'd been able to come out and be a politician and be gay?
Let me ask you something. Look, you're a nice young woman. Has anyone ever committed oral sex on you?
Well, I'm not running for office.
Do you think that only people who run for office should discuss their sex lives with strangers?
I'm not saying it's relevant, but as a defender of the closet, I don't personally care who sleeps with anyone if I'm not
sure
there.
You don't care.
But if we sort of protect this idea of the closet, there is a suggestion that there's something shameful about being gay.
No, not at all. I am simply saying it's not your business or anyone else's business. And I think we'll leave it at that.
So what should McGreevey have done?
Oh, McGreevey, I believe, engaged on the public payroll.
You think you can get elected today being openly gay in most places?
Well, there are people who have.
Could you be governor?
There are people who say that...
Well, we have one question, which is that you come out as publicly kind of Republican these days. You're supporting the RNC. You want people to welcome the Republican National Convention.
You see, you don't have the facts. The mayor appointed me to be the head of the volunteer. The mayor barred the Republicans.
So for you, this is a matter of civic duty, not politics.
I am going to vote for George Bush. Best time of their lives.
Well, thanks very much. I'm sure they will if you're overseeing
it. I hope so.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
If you find yourself having read through all 7 autobiographies of Ed Koch and are yet yearning for more, he has a new book coming out this fall. This new effort follows the current trend of celebrity children's books and is called, what else? Little Ed. Join me next week when I interview former New York Governor Mario Cuomo.